it's Sabrina from the Gombe family. Today we are going to talk about being white in Kenya. So let's go ahead and get started. I know this might be a controversial video, but I wanted to explain to people who are white or even lighter skinned that there are some cultural issues and things that arise just because of the color of your skin in Kenya, just like there will be in most other countries. In America, there's issues with people of different colored skin, as we all know, and in Kenya there are issues as well, much different issues than America, and I would much rather choose these issues that we have in Kenya as opposed to the issues that my husband might face being black in America, which is a conversation that we've had multiple times between ourselves. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first one that I wanted to talk about, I have my notes over here, is my husband mentioned this actually. People telling my husband that he is torturing me as his white wife by making me live in the village, which we both think is hilarious. We got this a lot when we lived in the town next to the village, and he took me out and we planted maize together. His mom actually rents an acre of land, and then they like plant maize and they grow the maize and they harvest, and then she just like rents it for the season. So like they rented the land and they got everything to grow the maize, and she was planting. And so Shaha was like, oh, I want to go help my mom. I was like, I want to go help your mom too, right? So it was raining that day, and all three of us, him, his mom, and me, were planting, and people were like walking by like in like the native tongue, like, hey, how's it going? Like really awkward, right? So then people would say like, why are you doing this to her? You are torturing her, making her plant maize and making her live like this, and why don't you treat her better? And he's just like, he doesn't say anything because that's not my husband. He's a very quiet person. That's why you don't see him much on YouTube. But he's just like, I mean, it doesn't bother me that they say that as long as you don't feel like you're tortured. And I'm like, no, most of these things that we're doing, like, I choose to do them, you know? Like, I'm not like, why are you making me live here? Why are you making me help plant maize? Like, I ask to do those things because one, I want to learn. Two, I eventually want to show YouTube, you know, that like it's not just the locals that can do these things. You can participate as well, you know? So that was one of the things that my husband had to say about how people think that I should be treated better just because I'm white. If his wife was Kenyan, they wouldn't be saying any of this, right? It would be normal for them to live in the village, for them to plant maize, but just because of the color of my skin, it's weird, and he's torturing me because we're in the village. So that's a really interesting one. So the next one is people being very nice. So this is a very positive thing, right? You think, wow, people are really nice. Like often, from my experience, living in California, people are not the nicest, at least where I'm from. So yeah, it's like a breath of fresh air, right? To be around people that are just genuinely nice. They genuinely want to help you or talk to you or whatever the case. But the problem with that is that you have to understand the situation that these people are approaching you or being nice to you, and whether it's like, oh, this person's genuinely being nice to me, or oh, this person thinks that they can get something out of me, which unfortunately is very common, especially being white in Kenya, because they automatically think, oh, you're white, you have money. They don't care where this money is coming from. They don't look at the fact that, oh, she's out with her husband every day, or she comes to the village at all times of the day. Oh, she just got to Kenya, so she probably doesn't have a job. They don't think about any of that. They think white equals money, like unlimited money. That's what they think. So people will try to be nice to you and then be like, oh, well, can I have this amount? And all the time. So you have to get really good at distinguishing whether somebody is being genuinely nice to you and they don't want anything from you, or somebody's being nice to you because they want something out of you. So that's a skill that you have to learn very quickly if you don't already have it. But that goes along with the next thing that I'm going to talk about, is having to say no to people who ask for money. That is a very serious thing that you need to learn how to do very quickly. And that is, I'm not just talking about like people I know or people that are in my husband's family, which is the case as well, but I'm talking about complete strangers. Like, I'm talking about one instance I use as an example often is we were on a motorbike on mine and my husband's motorbike, going like through the village to get to my husband's mom's house. And we stopped on the motorbike to greet some people because, as many of you like know, the stereotype is true that the village is like a large family. So everybody knows everybody. So we stop on the motorbike, my husband's greeting these people, and this old man that knows my husband but never met this man before in my life, he looks at me, of course doesn't speak English, and goes, he's asking for money for cigarettes. Never met this man before in my life. You know, so I'm just kind of like shake my head no, you know? And that happens all the time. We were on the road on the way to his mom's house one time, and this person that he knows, I think it might have been a neighbor or something, was like, hey, Shaha, let me talk to you for a second. And Shaha was like, okay. And so like we stop, and Shaha goes like back to talk to him, and he was like, oh, do you think that I could have like 200 shillings? Shaha's like, no. You know, that happens all the time, and probably way more than I even know, because my husband knows that that bothers me, so he doesn't even tell me every time it happens. But people will constantly call him long lost cousins and friends from high school and college. They'll call him all the time and be like, Shaha, I see that you're doing very well with your foreigner wife. Can I borrow 500? You know, and it's just like, before I got married, you never asked me for money, you know my financial situation. But now that I have a white wife, you automatically think that I have money. You know, like, I am not working, you know that. My wife is not working. Where do you think this money is going to come from? You know, that's what boggles my mind. Where do you think this money is coming from? You know, I seriously want to ask people that. Like, I want to understand where you think this money is coming from. Does it just like come from inside my skin because my skin is white? Like, I don't understand that. So that is something that I have a very hard time with. So the next thing is patronizing me about specifically cultural foods or the language. So we will go to the market. For example, one time we went to the market, and this woman, we were buying cabbage from her. And I actually had never really cooked with cabbage too much before that. Never at all in Kenya, but I think a couple times in America before. And so we were buying some cabbage, and she was like, does your wife want me to cut it, or does she not want me to cut it? And he asked me, and I was like, she can cut it, you know, like, why would I not have her cut it when that just makes life easier for me, right? Like, it doesn't cost any extra for her to cut it. And she was like, yeah, I thought so. I'm sure she can't cut it like this anyways. Like, saying, because they like shred it like really well with like a knife or whatever, a sharp knife. And that just like offended me. I don't know if I don't think she intended to offend me, you know, but it's just kind of like really patronizing that like you would be like, oh, like this white woman, I'm sure that she has like a chef or a cook back in her country, so she probably doesn't know how to cut things like this, you know, like that's kind of how I took it, which maybe I should start taking things lighter, but it's just, it's offensive that like you would automatically assume things, you know. People will say to me in passing, whether it's like his family members or friends or whatever, like, oh, have you tried sukuma wiki before? You know, and I'm just like, me and Shaha cook that for our family all the time, you know. Githeri, we cook that all the time, you know. There's like mchicha, we cook that all the time, which is like similar to spinach. you know? So like, we have all of these traditional dishes in our rotation at our home when nobody else is in our house except for me, Shaha, and our 2 children. So why patronize me of, oh, have you tried this? Oh, have you done, like, are you learning Swahili? You know, like, things like that, like, bother me, and I know that they shouldn't, so I'm working on it. But yeah, like, I think that in America you wouldn't really do that because it's such like a melting pot. So you don't know like what someone's home life is like, you know, you don't know if it's like a blended family, you don't know if it's culturally blended or if it's a completely white family and they eat Mexican food every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you know, you have no idea. But here, like, people just automatically assume, oh, you haven't done or tried or experienced anything of our culture. So I need to get a little more lighthearted when it comes to that. I know, I'm working on it. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is attention every time you walk out your door. Like, I'm talking about every time. And granted, you will get less attention when you go to the foreigner areas. So for example, Surrey Mall or Westgate Mall, those are the 2 areas that you will see foreigners constantly, right? So you won't really get stared at so much, even in those situations we get stared at a lot because it's a white woman with a man who has vitiligo. People in Kenya look at vitiligo very negatively. And then we have a black Kenyan child and a mixed American child. They have completely different accents. You know, we just have so many facets to our family. So even if it's a foreigner area, we're still gonna get stared at. So that's something that you just have to get used to. And it's not being stared at in a negative way always. I think that the negative stares usually come from the vitiligo and not from me being white. And you can really tell the difference, you know, like you can see when somebody looks at Shaha and how they look at Shaha, you know. I'm sure that's a video for a different day. But yeah, so when somebody is staring at us because I am white, it's just all the time. So every time I walk outside to call the girls in when they're playing with their friends, everybody on the street stops and just stares at me. You know, every time that we're going to the market to get fruits or vegetables, everyone is staring at me, you know, and we have to pass like little bars, like, I wouldn't even call it a bar, but a small place that has like 3 or 4 bar stools and they sell alcohol. 2 of those places we have to pass in order to get to the fruits and vegetables, like on our street. And like drunk people will be like, one time this guy was like, drunk old dude, he was like, Sarah. I was like, is he talking to me? And Shaha was like, I think so. And then that didn't work, obviously, because my name is not fucking Sarah. And then he was like, Jessica, you know, and he kept trying white names, I guess, I don't know. So that's the stuff that you have to deal with constantly when you are white in Kenya. I also wanted to make sure that I recognized that in Kenya, people don't just think that you're white because you're white. If you have any type of lighter skin, if you are not African or very dark black American, then they call you white. So they call Indians white, they call like Middle Eastern people white, they call Asian people white many times, they call everybody who has pale skin white. So I make sure I correct my husband because that's not an accurate representation of people, you know? So if he says like, oh, look at that white woman, I'm like, no, she's Indian, you know? So he's starting to learn, and when he's not sure now, he'll ask like, oh, what is she? So that's good. But yeah, so those are the main things that I wanted to talk about in regards to differences in being white in Kenya as opposed to just being black or a local. And I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from, and I hope you guys take this as a positive video so that you can just understand that I wanted to get this out because it's important for people to understand that if you're coming here as a white person, there is a lot of things that you have to make sure that you think about and that you are on your toes about. A bonus tip is that when you come here, especially if you are coming here as a tourist or just on your own without any guidance from a local, you will get taken advantage of, especially when you first come here and you don't know the prices of things. They will try to double, triple charge you, right? And so now I know those prices. So even when I'm not with my husband, if someone like we looked at a bicycle, a brand new bicycle to get shipped to our house internationally, and it cost $12,000, which is a little over $100, right? And then we went past this used bike place in like in one of the markets, and I was like, oh, how much is this bike? And she was like, 15,000, which was like $130 for a used bike. We were gonna get a new bike shipped from abroad for us to have. So it was just like, she saw how white I was, and so she was like, oh, okay, I could charge anything I want from this lady, you know? So it was just ridiculous, and that will happen to you all the time when you are white in Kenya. So don't take it as a negative thing, take it as they're business people. They're trying to get what they can out of you, right? So don't take it as a loss when someone gets over on you and you realize that. Just take it as, okay, well, now I know what the right price is and no one's gonna get over on me again, you know, because those things really bothered me when I first got here. Like, even if it was just like 100 shillings, which is less than $1, it would really bother me. But now it doesn't happen to me as often, which is good because I've learned like prices very quickly. But also, if it does happen to me, I make sure that it's not a lot, because I will research and talk to my husband and then research some more before I pay for something expensive, just to make sure that I know what the price is. But two, I will just take it in stride and be like, okay, well, they got me. The next person won't, you know? Another experience that I could give you an example of is we were on the bus and we sat down in 3 seats, and the bus conductor is the person that takes the money from everybody that comes onto the bus, and he told us the price for 4 seats, and I was like, no, we only sat in 3 seats. And he was like, well, it doesn't matter, you have to pay for 4 seats because there's 4 of you. Excuse me. And so this is when I was still kind of new here, so I was like, maybe that's just how they do it in Nairobi, because of course we're from the coast, so it might be different, you know? And so then when we got off the bus, my husband was like, man, these guys are con artists, blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, why didn't you tell me that in the moment? Like, I would have been like, no, you're stupid. Like, I'm giving you the price for 3 seats and that's it, you know? But my husband really doesn't like confrontation, so that's why he didn't tell me. But because of that instance, which was, I don't know, only like 60 shillings difference, I know better for next time. So that will never happen to me again. So those are just some examples of what you can expect if you come to Kenya being white. And I hope that you're able to prepare for those situations a little more from this video. Please, please, please ask questions in the comments so that I can know what you want to know about coming here, or what you want to know about living here, traveling here. I would love to know your questions so that I can answer them and help you have a successful trip or move to Kenya. So I will talk to you guys in our next video. Please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.